time that all politics is personal. We've also heard all politics is local, but I'm focusing on the personal here. So many have heard that phrase. And right now we live in intense, divisive times. We've been separated from one another for over a year. And that physical separation has really shown itself in a lot of ways politically, in terms of the acts of violence we've seen out in the nation, et cetera. During all of this, how do we choose civility in these times? Do we do it by avoiding the difficult conversation and avoiding those that we disagree with? Or do we choose love and respect by engaging one another respectfully, by asserting ourselves and sharing our perspective, by listening to the perspectives of others? So I'd say if we value ourselves and we value others, we will assert ourselves as an act of civility, and we will treat others respectfully. And I'm going to end with a quote from Henry Drever that says, "Assertiveness and the quest for meaning go hand in hand." Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Very good, sir. Health and welfare. Are there any updates or reports on the health of Rotary members? Dick Schick, tell us about you.
He'll have to unmute himself.
Okay. Okay. And now for our guest.
Yeah, President Ray, I have the privilege of having as my guest retired Flint Schools administrator and a avid volunteer gardener who happens to be my mother, Phyllis McCree. So glad to have Mom with us today for this meeting.
Oh, thank you for coming, Ms. McCree.
President Ray, President Ray.
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple guests with me today live from my office here. First of all, Jackie Hoist, my partner and architect here at H2A Architects. And then secondly is Bailey Ramirez. She's an architectural intern here with the firm as well.
Great. We had a chance to welcome both of them in the breakout room.
Good.
Thank you both for coming.
Ray, President Ray, I was just going to tell you, I talked to Hal Flynn a couple of days ago. He was laid up, but still is the same Hal Flynn. He is full of vim and vigor when you talk to him. And it's a pleasure. And I wish we could find a way to tune him in to these meetings, but he just doesn't have the capability of doing that over at Abbey Park, apparently. But just so you know, he still's the Hal Flynn that we all know when he's in the club in person, and a strong voice, and it has been in the community.
Thank you for that, Bob.
Yeah, Mr. President,
Yes.
this is Gene. I've got a guest, my daughter-in-law, Sue Dennis, is with us today. She is an HR specialist at ADESA, the auto auction company here in Flint.
Well, thank you very much and welcome. So we appreciate you coming.
President Ray, I got one too.
All right.
Very familiar with this club. My wonderful, wonderful wife, Jenny, the librarian over at Hurley.
Thank you for coming, Jenny. Welcome back again.
For having me. Thank
We
you.
appreciate you. Thanks. Are there any other announcements? Okay, we can move forward. So it's time for the program. Vice President Elizabeth Jordan will give the introduction as Rotary welcomes Ms. Kelly Kerr, horticulturist for Ruth Mott Foundation and the Applewood Estates. Elizabeth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ray. I have had the opportunity to know Kelly for going on 16 years now. It's hard to believe. Kelly is one of the people who makes Applewood the beautiful place that it is. She is just an exceptionally talented horticulturalist who helps make the grounds at Applewood bloom. She's also had the chance to work with a number of different community groups to share her expertise and help make other parts of our community bloom as well. Kelly is somebody who has a lot of other talents. She's, I could say, wonderful with crafts, wonderful with teaching me how to drive a really big golf cart and not crash into things. Other duties as assigned.
Excuse me, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, somebody needs to mute themselves. Somebody is not muted.
We're getting some
Okay.
feedback.
Thank you.
Can't tell who that is.
In any case, Kelly, you got a taste of her expertise last week as she kind of was able to respond to some questions on the fly, and so very much looking forward to hearing her presence this week. So, Kelly, take it away.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was really a nice introduction. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Elizabeth for 16 long, not long years, but seems like, doesn't seem like that long, but Elizabeth is a wonderful friend and co-worker at the Ruth Mott Foundation. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so I share my screen, correct?
Right,
You
just
ready to
drop
do
down to
that?
the bottom,
Okay,
share screen.
all right. Now, let me know what you got. Now, do I just start clicking on this? Sorry, I haven't done this yet. So,
You can just run your PowerPoint slide show just at the top.
oh, okay, just run the slideshow.
Yeah,
Okay, hold on a minute. I'm not.
Nope.
I think if you just click slideshow at the top bar there, and then
Yeah, you know, my, there we go. There we go. I had to move my,
There you go. Slideshow from the beginning.
Yeah.
Over
all the way to the left. There you go.
Perfect.
hey,
There we go.
that's not the first slide. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. And here we go. We're going to start today with tips and tricks from an Applewood horticulturist. And I know some of you guys have been gardening for years and years, so you could probably teach me a thing or two, but I'm just going to share some things with you that I think are really important from season to season as we go along. I know that there's probably going to be some questions, maybe. If you guys want to put those in the chat box, and then after Amy or Elizabeth, we can fire those right away after I'm finished with the PowerPoint. So I'm probably going to go a little bit fast. We don't have but 20 minutes and there's tons of information to go over. So I'll go ahead and get started here. Now, most of you have visited Applewood, so you're pretty well aware of the estate. The estate is now 105 years old. It's a tranquil place of beauty in the middle of Flint, open as a community resource and a tribute to the legacy of C.S. Mott. As the estate changes and is not static, neither is the landscape. I started with this picture today because this is what Applewood looks like today. Last fall, in 2020, we had to replace some of the window wells in the front of the house. So we had to rip out all of the plant material from the house. So actually, this is a better picture of what it looks like now. There is some greenery in that one. All of those beds in front have been ripped out, and this year we'll be planting the same exact things that we had been growing year after year in the front. So everything will be new, fresh, and young. So it's going to be kind of a different look when people are able to come to the estate. So some of the things that I wanted to start with, as a horticulturist for the past 33 years, some of the things, the tools that I really like the most, I'm going to start with my favorite tools. So we'll start with this one. This is called a hori-hori knife. It's a really great tool. If you guys need something you can dig with it, you can pull weeds with it. It has a serrated edge. You can cut things with it. So this is a must for every tool gardener's tool bucket. Speaking of buckets, here we go. This is some of the newer things that are coming out onto the market. This is a collapsible bucket. I don't know about you guys, but I save a lot of things. My basement is loaded with lots of things here and there. It's hard to get rid of things sometimes. And sometimes you just need a little space to stick something. Well, this collapsible bucket is great. Something you can collapse and put, in the back of your car and take with you when you need it. So I highly suggest, these are, I think, like $5 or $6 online. So if you're looking for something really neat that you can just collapse, this is another a great tool that we want to have. You want to start with a really good pair of pruners. I know everybody wants to buy cheap things, and things are, you can buy cheap things, but with everything else, if you buy the more expensive tools for your garden, Fiskars and Corona are really good. If you pay a little bit more money for your pruning tools, you can actually keep them for a whole lifetime. Unless, of course, I was working in a friend's yard yesterday and I was raking some leaves and I found a pair of Fiskars pruners underneath the leaf pile. And I thought, oh my gosh, you really didn't take very good care of these. But at least we found them and you didn't have to buy another $40 pair of pruners. Another thing is something that we found a couple years ago. One of my seasonals found these really great claw gloves. I was really never one to wear gloves when I garden. I don't know about you guys, but I really like the feel of the dirt and the foliage on my hands. But I started learning more about the brown recluse spider that we have here in Michigan, and they like to hide in spaces, leaves and little areas that we always are putting our hands underneath, pulling things out of our shade beds and bushes and things like that. So I kind of got a little leery about not wearing gloves, but this pair of gloves is a great pair for scraping up the soil, digging a hole. They have claws at the center. So you guys got to get a pair of those as well. Some of the newer things that are coming out onto the market. And then of course, our trusty garden gloves that we absolutely love to have in our bucket. Always have to find a good, comfortable pair. The dollar store has really great gloves that last a season and you pay for $1. So, hey, $1's a dollar. We got to save some money buying those expensive pruners. This is another really great tool that people don't really know too much about, and it's a little bit harder to get your hands on. You have to know exactly what you're looking for. I know most people have pathways and little bricked areas where they need to get into those cracks of those sidewalks and things. This is a really great tool. It's called a weed cutter, and you can scrape all of the weeds out of the cracks with this great weed cutter. You can use it for weeding, other kinds of things, cutting roots. If you have a weed that has some really tough roots, you can use this to cut roots. There's an old one that was the one that was in my garden bucket. And I just got a new one this year from one of my coworkers. So I was really excited to get a new one. I'll keep the old one just in case the new one might find its way under a pile of leaves somewhere. Another thing that's a really great tool is our trowel, a skinny trowel, not a thick trowel. This is a really great tool for also weeding and just digging some holes when you're planting your annuals, when you just need a smaller hole and you don't want to use the big trowel that we normally use for planting annuals and things like that. And here's one of my other favorite tools. This is a pair of pruners from the dollar store. Notice that this pair of pruners is missing its little spring in the middle. So until we find another spring to replace the spring, this isn't going to do us any good. But maybe someday I'll find that spring in the rose garden and on the estate and I can put them back together again. But again, these are from the dollar store. In the springtime, the dollar store gets out all of their gardening equipment. They have a lot of really, really good tools that you can utilize, shovels and trowels. But this so far has been one of my favorite piece of pruning tools from the dollar store. These cut great. They stay sharp all summer long. So you got to get yourself a pair of these. And the last thing that I think is a really good new tool or piece to have is this watering can. It's a collapsible watering can. And this was given as a gift to me. And a lot, we have a lot of those old steel cans that always seem to, after the wintertime, develop a hole in the bottom. So this is a nice new plastic one. You can collapse this and stick it right into your bucket. When you get these, they're really stiff, so they have to be filled up with some warm water at first, so they're usable. So these are all of the tools that I love to have in my little tool bucket lately. I'm sure everybody has their own favorite tools, and if anybody wants to share something that they have that's really great, they can share that as well.
Lee, this is Amy. I don't want to interrupt with that, but I did want to let folks know that this presentation was emailed to you. So if you're frantically taking notes about the tools that you need to go purchase, you actually have a copy in your inbox. So
great. Thank you, Amy. So we're going to start out with some spring tips, and these are just basic spring tips that I thought of, kind of the way that we do at the way we start at Applewood. To prune your fruit trees and small ornamental trees, now is a really good time to get out there. You don't want to wait too much longer for your fruit trees and things like that. You always want to prune them when they're dormant. March or early April is a really good time. Remember the rule of thumb. Some people don't know this and they wonder why, oh, I never have any kind of flowers on my trees. Well, a lot of times people will go out there in the spring and get really antsy to start pruning things, and they prune off all the flowers. So you have to make sure you know what kind of plant you have. Hydrangeas are huge. If you cut spring flowering hydrangeas in the spring, you're not going to have any flowers on them. So it's important to know what plant material you're working with, the name of your plant, before you do any kind of spring pruning. And what I like to do is when I buy something new, I like to take the tag and put it in a folder that you have of all of the plant material that you've purchased over the years into a file. So if by chance you ever want to sell your house and the people are interested in your landscape, you can tell them exactly what you have in your yard, and they will know how to take care of it if they do the research. So now is also a really good time. Yesterday was a beautiful day to get outside. Everybody's excited for the nice warm weather, but we all know that it is March, and what was the temperature out this morning? Like 30 something. So we went from mid 70s to 30 degrees this morning. So it's a really good time to rake any of the bulb foliage or leaves and things left from fall, because you want to get that stuff up before your bulb foliage comes up too far. If you start raking that, you're going to start ripping the new leaves. They're very tender. So it's best to get all that stuff out of your garden before things start to grow up. Okay, we want to cut back all of our perennials and grasses left from previous fall. Sometimes we leave our perennials up. A lot of the echinacea and things like that, grasses, are really good for the birds in the winter. So you want to make sure that if you grow certain kinds of perennials, sometimes it's better to leave them for the birds, because in February and March, a lot of times they're looking for something to eat. So if you want to be a good Samaritan and feed your birds throughout the winter, leave some of your perennials up that do seed themselves, like the echinaceae. This is a really good time to collect your soil samples. We usually send ours to Michigan State University. There are lots of soil kits out there, soil testing kits. I do believe that the MSU kits are about $23. So, and they tell you all of your different kinds of mineral levels and things that you need, and they'll give you suggestions as to what to add to your soil and at what rate, so you can beef your soil up for your gardens. It's a little bit soon right now to remove winter protection from your hydrangeas and roses and things. We want to wait a little bit longer. I know everybody wants to do that at this time of the year. But we do get snowfall in mid-April, sometimes late April, and so we want to make sure that we're protecting the flowers still from that late freeze or late frost that we do have sometimes. Now is a good time to get your raised beds ready for planting. I was just doing some research on rototilling your beds, and I found out that you don't need to rototill your beds every year, but a really good amount of compost, 2 to 3 inches on top of your plant material with a nice turning of the soil with probably a pitchfork or a shovel is way better than rototilling, because you're messing with your plant, your soil, and all of the microbes and things in the soil. So if you can not rototill, it's really better for your vegetable gardens, or gardens for that matter. Garden planning, seed catalogs are a great resource for garden design. We get a whole bunch of them at the estate. Once you start ordering from one, it seems like they share your information with a lot of them, but it's a really great time to look through those garden catalogs to see what the new varieties are, new best and greatest tomatoes to grow and things like that. So start planning your garden a little bit early. March is really good, February. So then you can have, a lot of times what happens if you're looking through seed catalogs and you go to order something in April or May, a lot of the material is gone already. So it's best to get your seeds ordered and your garden planned early, so you have everything that you need for the beginning of the season. At this time also, we want to divide any perennials, hostas, move or plant trees and shrubs. We're still a little bit early for all of this. Usually early April, it's almost April now, but April to mid-May are really good times to share some perennials with your friends, dig up your hostas and move them around your yard and plant trees and shrubs. And this is also a really good time to place grow-through rings. I don't know if you guys are familiar with grow-through rings, but they're circular or rectangle squares with wires on them that you put in the ground. Super easy to utilize for a lot of your plant materials, such as delphiniums, iris, anything that grows straight up that needs to be staked later on. Then we want to spread our pre-emergent herbicide. This is a perfect time right now. A lot of people wait too long to spread their pre-emergent herbicide and they miss the window. This is a really good time to spread it March, late March, early March. Then as it rained last night, it is watered into the ground, and then it takes care of all your weeds from the spring. We also do a fall pre-emergent herbicide, so that helps if through the winter with our spring weeds that are coming up now, like such as wintercress. Unfortunately, those set so many seeds that it's hard to get all of them. So you have to be diligent when you're trying to take care of weeds. Next, we fertilize all of our plant beds. Usually we do a triple 13 on most of our plant beds, and you can get that readily at Meijer or any of the Home Depot, Lowe's. Fairly inexpensive, and it covers quite a few area. Usually you get a 40 pound bag, 20 pound bag. It just depends. And then you want to put your mulch on. Always very, very important. Right now is another really good time to put your mulch on, because it's going to get warm pretty soon. You know, nobody wants to be mulching when it's 80 degrees out. So that helps also keep the soil moist and the weeds from growing up during the summer. As we move along, back up here, some of the summer tips. It's a good time to plant annuals and vegetable beds Memorial Day weekend or before if weather permits. Raised beds and grow bags can be planted earlier. A lot of plants that you can grow earlier in the grow bags: beets, onions, potatoes, and carrots. My husband is the gardener at our house. He has his own vegetable garden. I really rarely ever set foot in his garden. Once in a while, he starts his garden. The last couple of years, he has planted around May 15th and had success because it hasn't frosted with his garden. So if you really are excited to get your vegetable garden going, go ahead and you can plant, but make sure you know that you may have to cover things if there is late frost. So raised beds and grow bags can be planted earlier. As I said, read your seed packets. When you get your seeds from your companies, it's very important that you follow the directions on the seed packets. A lot of people just disregard that as just information on the back. It will tell you exactly how many days it will take for you to get your vegetables from the time that you plant them. And it's almost like clockwork. You can almost plant them and put it on your calendar when they should be ready. And that's just about the time. They also tell you how deep to plant the seeds, how much soil you need to put on top of them, how much water they need, what the soil temperature needs to be before they successfully germinate. So make sure that you're reading the seed packets. Use your hand as a measuring tool. This is one of the things that I thought was really cool. Somebody taught me at one point in time. You just take your hand and put it down on a measuring tape. And so if your plant material, like I know mine is 6 inches. So a lot of annuals you plant 6 inches apart. So I just put my hands, instead of having a tool, I just put my hand down and plant the plants from my thumb to my finger. So it's a really great measuring tool. Built in, you don't even need to buy one. You have one already. A lot of people use their feet too. So, size 8 or size 12. So those are some really good tips when you're planting your annuals. And make sure you prune and deadhead your roses and perennials for new bud development during the summertime. The more that you prune off the old spent flowers, the more buds you're going to get to develop. The reason for that is when a flower flowers, it actually has a seed at the end. So it's giving all of its energy to produce more of its own. So if you cut those seeds off, then it's going to start going, all of the energy is going to go into the new bud to produce a new flower, to produce new seeds. So always remember to deadhead. And it always makes your garden look a lot better too if you've deadheaded your spent flowers and things. Remember to do your research on plants you want to grow. There's so much information out there. Roses, we have a rose garden. I believe we have over 80 roses in the rose garden. And unfortunately for us, we have to fertilize them once a month for them to look good. And that doesn't always happen in our day-to-day duties. We don't always get to do that. So make sure if you like your roses that you make sure you have enough time to fertilize them and take really good care of them. Do your research on all of your plants to make sure the requirements that they need to give you what you expect out of them. So prune your flowering shrubs. This is the best time to prune, like say your forsythia. You want to make sure that you prune those after they flower. And any other things, the deutzia also, anything that flowers in the spring, the summer is a really good time to prune your shrubs. And always remember in summer, we're always running and doing crazy things, trying to get our weeds out of our garden and things like that. But always remember to stop and smell the roses. Enjoy your garden. Take your bench out there and enjoy the time that you have, because in Michigan, we don't have a whole lot of time to enjoy our gardening. So then we move on to fall and winter tips. And this is a great time in the fall to plant major and minor bulbs. Your major bulbs are your tulips and things like that. Your minor bulbs are some of these pictures, like I showed, this little anemone, this Grecian windflower, and the gray hyacinths. These are perfect times to order these. There's tons of catalogs out there for bulbs as well. Brent and Becky's bulbs, Vandenberg's, just a lot of, you can always get all these little information, all these, just if you wanted to plant some minor flowering bulbs, just put that in your World Wide Web and you can get some really neat small things that flower right now. There are the snowdrops that are out right now. They've been flowering for about a month now. So just a nice little addition to your spring flowers that come really early. You also want to collect leaves for summer planting beds. This is a really important. We want to add compost to our planting beds. So your leaves that you're bagging up, put them on your perennial beds, and next spring you can clean them off. They're really great. They do decompose over the winter and they add to your composting. So go ahead and collect your own leaves and put them on your beds for the winter. And then in the springtime, do some of your cleanup of those leaves. You can also mulch your leaves with a lawnmower and blow right into your flower beds. Perfect compost to add to your perennials. Cut back your perennials, except those that feeds the birds with their winter seed flower heads. This is a catch-22 thing. If you like to get out in the spring and do a lot of work, then leave all of your perennials up. But if you like to, in the springtime, just go ahead and just put your first layer of mulch on, cut everything back in the fall. And everybody has their own preference of when they want to do it. Sometimes we don't have enough time in the fall. We have more time in the spring. People want to get out there. That's just a personal preference. Personally, I always like to get mine done in the fall because I love to just look out in the spring and see all those fresh beds, but that doesn't always happen. So either or, you can do whatever the time permits for you. Winterize any perennials or rhododendrons. We do a big burlap and staking project at the estate for our rhododendrons. Our roses are covered with a lot of mulch. So that's a big project. We'll be in the next few weeks, we'll be taking off the mulch from our perennials or from our roses and rhododendrons. And the winter is a really good time to design your garden for next season. As I stated, decide what kind of gardens you would like and what you would like to attract in your gardens. Utilize the World Wide Web to learn new things about gardening. Yes, absolutely. Grab some magazines, get on the web, utilize more than one source. And even so, if you have questions about gardening and you look it up, go to more than one source, because a lot of times the web won't give you factual information. So if you see it more than 2 or 3 times, you know it's a really great source. Grow succulents. They can be a part of your outdoor decoration in the summer and indoor decoration in the winter. I know in the last 2 years, there has been a boom in indoor plants. So people are they're really spending a lot of money on indoor plants. And succulents are one of those that require a little water. And you can keep those and overwinter those over the winter and plant really nice pots of them and bring them indoors and take them back outdoors. And the very last thing that you need to do in the winter is get yourself a nice hot toddy or a hot chocolate with some peppermint schnapps in it and relax, because you're ready for your season. You finished with your vegetables and you just want to relax for the season. So we have at the estate at Applewood for the past, I don't know, as long as we can remember, as we've been part of the Ruth Mott Foundation, we have done technical assistance. And these are some of the projects and things, different groups that we have worked with in North Flint, which is one of our, it is our focus group. And you guys are probably familiar with some of these people, some of these gardens. I know the MLK garden has been flourishing for the last, I think this will be its 3rd year in. And we do a lot of technical assistance. So if you have any groups that you know need some technical assistance, we're in the process right now of hiring a new technical assistant. So if you have any questions or have a group that needs any information, you can always contact the Ruth Mott Foundation, one of your grant members, Elizabeth, and they can set you up with Todd, and we can get you some technical assistance. Some of my favorite gardening resources are some that maybe you guys know and maybe that you don't know. The Farmer's Almanac is a great tool. They've been around for a very, very, very long time, and their information is probably one of the best and most reliable sources that you could get information from. If you sign up for the Farmer's Almanac email, they'll send you thousands and thousands and thousands of emails a week. And they have such great articles. You click on one article and they give you articles to other things. The Spruce Gardens is something that I stumbled upon about a couple months ago, and they have a lot of information too. Horticulture Magazine is one of my very favorite magazines, basically for the homeowner. All the spring catalogs, like I said, have great information about any kind of materials that you need. Cornell University has a great Extension program, as well as Michigan State University Extension. And you can find just about any article that you need through either one of these agriculture colleges that are always great information, and it's factual as well. And if you guys ever have any questions about anything, I put my email in there. You can always contact me. If I don't have an answer for it, we have a lot of other people at the estate. Mike Balco, who is our IPM specialist, who is a wealth of knowledge about fruit trees and anything else. Just a really great coworker that can answer any questions that we have.
Okay.
Visiting Applewood for the season, the plans for reopening Applewood for the 2021 season are still in development due to the pandemic, and we hope to have more to share later this spring. And when we do, we will be posting it on our website and social media, so check back often. But in the meantime, visit our newly designed website where you can check out all our virtual programming that the staff has been working on in the past year. We have a lot of they do story time. So if you guys have grandkids or kids that you just want to sit down and have somebody read you a story, they've not been able to be in school as much as they can, or you're looking for something to take up some time, there's a lot of great new history about Applewood. One of our collections assistants, Malcolm Cottle, has done a lot of historical pieces. He's very dynamic and energetic and great to listen to, and has a lot of history information about the Motts on there as well. So if you're looking for something to do on the weekend and you're on the computer, take a look at our newly designed website, and it'll suck you in and take you a little while to see all the new things that they've created and come up with. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening to my talk. I'm sure a lot of this stuff was basic for most of you, but maybe you learned a couple new things. And if you have any questions, like I said, I can entertain any questions. And if we don't get to your question in the time that we have allotted, for sure, send me an email and I will definitely get back with you as soon as I can with an answer. So thanks for having me today.
Well, you're very welcome. Are there questions for Kelly while we have her right here, right now?
I've got a question.
Go right ahead.
Kelly, fascinating talk. I love the whole thing. Very good.
Great.
Thank you. I recently moved and I have new gardens that I'm going to be planting. And I've had some not very successful with some perennials like delphiniums. They haven't overwintered for me. I grow them, they look great, and then they die, and then they don't come back.
Yes.
Are there any perennials that you would recommend that just are easy, they do well, they, no matter what, they just grow well in our region?
Oh, I could give you a whole list of perennials. Lilies, hostas, peonies. I could give you a list of things that don't do well. And unfortunately, your delphiniums are one of those that they really do need TLC. And sometimes the cold weather will knock them back. We have a beautiful stand of delphinium in the perennial garden that year after year, they just don't come back. So I could come up with a list for you and email a list to you if you like.
Sure. I'm just wondering, what I can plant and what I want something that's going to come back year after year. That's perennials.
Right. I'm in the process right now of, I have taken a whole slew of pictures over the last couple of years, and I'm putting them in a What's in Bloom folder. So I could put the What's in Bloom folder, because these are things that from Applewood that come up year after year. And I could share that with Elizabeth, and she could share that with you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Some things that we've had, a lot of luck with. There's like, in our perennial garden alone, we have 90 different varieties of perennials. So there's a whole list of things that I could share with you.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, a couple people have mentioned that they recognize the chickens on your picture there. And I do have to claim that that is my Elizabeth
Those are your chickens, huh?
and Eleanor. They visited Applewood and were chickens, and Kelly actually took their picture because they're so darn cute.
Oh, I just thought that was so cute. And then when Amy contacted me, I said, "You're not the one with the chickens." Oh, she had mentioned her twins. And I said, "You're not the ones with the chickens, are you?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just thought that was so cute. They're so cute. Adorable."
Well, I actually have a question too. You mentioned adding mulch right now. I've got to be honest, I'm a haphazard gardener. So I don't actually remember where everything's at. If I put mulch in my beds, am I going to suppress the growth of some of those perennials that are going to be coming back?
Most of the time right now you can still see where your perennials are coming up at. So, but if you wanted to wait just a little bit longer, some of the things are going to mulch. If you want to mulch right now, you really have to know your plants have to be up and you have to know where they are, because you will with wood mulch. You would suppress them just a little bit. They're going to come up anyway, but you don't want to suppress them at all during the spring. You could do a light leaf mulch. Leaf mulch is, considered a mulch as well. So if you had some leaf mulch in there, they will definitely come up through the leaf mulch better than they would coming up through wood mulch. So you want to just be careful.
I have a question.
Okay.
Dick?
We planted hydrangeas quite a few years ago, 5 of them. In the first 2 or 3 years, they came up with massive blooms year after year. Now they grow massive plants, but rarely do they have any blooms. So how do we prepare them for the winter so that they will bloom next spring?
The flowering hydrangeas that we have, that we prepare, that we cover for the winter, we cover them with, we kind of bunch them together, put we tie them with a string, and then we kind of fold them over on the ground, and they're covered with leaf mulch, and then are covered with a straw mat. I don't know if you're familiar with that straw mat that they use after they plant grass seed. But if you put those down and then maybe put a brick on the point and cover them with some leaf mulch, you might have a better chance at getting them to flower for you. I know hydrangeas are one of those things that, do you prune them at all in the fall?
I have and I have not, and it doesn't seem to make any difference.
Okay, we talked a little bit about this last week, where some hydrangeas bloom on old wood. So if you're cutting your wood, your hydrangeas down to the ground, you're cutting off all the flowers. And some hydrangeas grow on new wood, like we talked about Annabelle hydrangeas last week. Those you can cut completely down to the ground and you're going to get flowers the next spring. So it's really important to know what kind of hydrangeas you actually have to know what.
We had 2 blooms last year.
What color are they? White or are they pink?
They're on old wood, and I use the acid so they turn out blue.
Okay, those are, you have the Nico blue ones. So those are the hydrangeas that we do cover in the wintertime to keep them protected in case it gets too cold for their buds. So yeah, I mean, that would be my suggestion, is to make sure that they're covered in the winter for spring bloom.
What was the other mulch beside the leaf mulch you put on first?
We put on it's a straw mat. It's the mat that they use when they're doing some reseeding sometimes, and it's already in a mat. I think you could get it at, sometimes I think you can get it at TSC. I'm not for sure. We might get ours at the specialty gardening store in Grand Blanc, but I'm not for sure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good luck, because they're temperamental for sure.
Yeah, they are. But when they bloom, they're fabulous.
Yes.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have a comment for Kelly. One of them is, I absolutely love Applewood. It's so beautiful and it's such a treasure in our community. Thank you for sharing that with us. And the other thing I have is I've already overseeded my lawn for the spring. And I was wondering about you were talking about the fertilizer that you put on in the spring or the weed control. How long do I have to wait before I can do that?
You want to wait. I know there is grass seed that has weed control in it already, but you want to wait till your garden is pretty, or your grass is really well established. I probably, if I were you, I probably wouldn't put any weed control on it. I would probably let it go the season and then treat it in the fall, do your fall weed control. Because you're still going to have throughout the season, you're still going to have some of those grass seeds that haven't germinated yet. And if you start putting down weed control or pre-emergent, you're not going to get any of those to germinate. That's the purpose of that. So I would definitely wait until I would wait the whole season myself, just so you give all of those grass seeds. Then you can start doing your fall weed control in your lawn again next fall.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? Any others? Other questions? Well, I want to give you a great big thanks, Kelly. You bring a wealth of information. And one thing that I was glad to hear is that this presentation has been sent to us by email.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you're going to get a lot more questions. So just be prepared.
Well, good. I'm glad. So, anytime you guys have any questions, or if you, like I said, again, if you know of any groups that need technical assistance in the Flint community, please contact Elizabeth, or if you're in contact with another one of the grant staff, or just contact us directly at Applewood, and we can sure hook you up with somebody that can give you some information and help.
What was the last part of your email address?
Kcare at ruthmott.org.
Okay.
And thank you for last week and this week.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm glad everything went smoothly. And like I said, any questions at any time, go right ahead. We're a community resource at Applewood, the Ruth Mott Foundation, and we're happy to help anybody out.
All right. And in appreciation for the time and preparation that you donated for our enjoyment and education, the Rotary Club of Flint will make a donation in your name to the Rotary International Foundation for the Eradication of Polio. Thank you very much for joining us and presenting to us today. We appreciate you.
Well, thank everyone for listening.
All right. I want to thank Rotarian Patrick Neswell for his inspirational message, Vice President Elizabeth Jordan for introducing our outstanding speaker, and Rotarian Marissa Pierce for taking our notes. Flint Rotary thanks each and every one of you for joining us today. And I hope you enjoyed our program as much as we enjoyed welcoming you as members and guests. There won't be a formal meeting next week, so please join us for a Zoom happy hour at 4 p.m. Stay safe, keep warm, and look to open opportunities in order to provide service to both self. Now listen for the closing bell to stipulate that we are adjourned.
No pressure.
All right, it did it.
Great
Next week,
weekend.
everybody.
Bye. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
What's new, George?
Oh, not much. How about yourself?
Not much.
Want to say something? Like your shirt.
Wear it every Friday.
That is nice. Very nice.
We all have a great weekend. See you next week.
Nice.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.